How you want to start?
From the beginning. Reggae is a people music. People coming together.
Ooh, yeah.
You know you're a superstar.
All right, well, jamming.
I'm a superstar.
I wanna jam it with you. And say no vow. We can do it anyhow. Jam until the jam is through.
There's a war going on.
We're jamming.
You can't separate the music and the message.
'Cause every day we pay the price.
And what is the message?
Sacrifice.
Peace.
Oh, life is worth much more than gold.
Bob, they try to kill you and your wife. And now you're choosing to return to Jamaica to play a peace concert? Don't you fear for your life?
So we gonna walk through the roads of creation.
My life is not important to me.
Are you satisfied
My life is for people.
with the life you're living?
Do you really think this world will make it?
Yes. There's no other way.
Exodus,
That's the source of your strength.
we know where we're from. We're leaving Babylon. We're going to our fatherland. We know where we're going. We know where we're from. Open your eyes and look within. Now, 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 now. Are you satisfied? Are you satisfied with the life you're living?
One love, one heart, one destiny.
Well, this is a period of musical genius, musical creation. Bob, after the assassination attempt in 1976, goes into overdrive, and he creates Exodus, which is, one of the greatest albums of the 20th century. So that particular period of time was just an outpouring of music, clearly coming after political turmoil. So there was a lot of drama in that time. It also encompassed so much of his life, obviously before he got sick. And so, we just felt like it was a critical time in Bob's life where so much was happening in his personal life and his public life that felt, it encompassed so much of what had happened before and after. So it was the perfect period of time for us. Yeah, it was cold and it was hot. No, for sure. Look, it was my second time returning to Jamaica. I did a show called Top Boy there, and my second time returning to the UK. Both that show shot in both Jamaica and London, and so for me it was great returning to both places. I had crew that I had worked with before, so it was kind of a homecoming to both places and both cities for me. It was the longest time I had ever spent in Jamaica, in Trenchtown, and for me it was this kind of spiritual, and I'm sure for not just for myself but for the whole cast and crew, it's very spiritual being in the same spaces that Bob walked, going to the streets of Trenchtown, going to the Cane River fields where he was from, traveling the country and seeing the spaces in which he lived and where he walked. That was just really, really special. There's no light like Jamaica. You can't fake that. And so that was amazing, being there, working with the people of Jamaica in front of and behind the camera. It was magical. And obviously here in London, what great crews that we have here, such amazing support shooting most of the film. We did most of our post here in London, so it's a really special place to work. And obviously, we got lucky with gray skies and rain and all the elements that you need in making films. So wonderful cast and crew that we got to work with in both countries for sure. Yeah, well, look, we saw Kingsley's audition tape and just thought he was the right guy for the role. He had this presence, he had this vulnerability that we were looking for, and this was after almost a year-long search. And so when we finally found him, it was the start to building this film. And equally, when we found Lashana, what an amazing actress to pair with Kingsley. They had such chemistry. They had this immediate bond, and the camera loved them. And so for me, I was very lucky. And luckily for me, they were so protective of each other in the process of making the movie. So you can feel that. You can feel their energy. They were always on the search for the deeper meaning, the truth, as we all are. We were always trying to dig to find that. But in particular, I know Lashana, being of Jamaican descent, was such an important role for her, so monumental, so triggering in a lot of ways. She felt the weight of that, and to honor Rita's legacy was paramount, not only for her but for all of us. And so they're special. Obviously, you see them on the screen, you see their dynamicism, you see how just how they pop off the screen. They're electric, and for me, I'm just beneficiary of that in a lot of ways. Yeah, I mean, for me, it was a no-brainer. It had to be done. I think there's been over 500 books written about Bob Marley, and many of which I got the opportunity to try to read. But whose truth is it? You're trying to find the common denominator, and being able to get access to the family that knew Bob. They're his offspring, they're his children, they're his wife. They were in the room with him. They understand the nuance of Bob. They understood what made him laugh, what made him tick, what made him cry. All of those things, it wasn't made up. It wasn't an interview. It wasn't something that you can pull from YouTube. It was real life stories, and having that trust, that inner circle, is what you feel. It's the fabric of the film. It's the DNA. It's spiritual DNA, and you can't make that up. And so that kind of access only deepens the nuances of the film, of the character, of the spaces that we go into. It helps our production design. It helps our wardrobe. It makes it specific to Bob and his life. It makes it specific to Rita and his life, so it doesn't feel like generic. And I think that's what we were after, was trying to go deep, trying to continue to mine, who the real man, behind the myth and all the legend, the man behind the legend. So I think that's what we were after, and I think that access was tremendous. Having Ziggy on set was everything for me. Real access. Chris is a genius. He really is. From the moment I met him on my first film, Monsters and Men, we just hit it off. We speak the same language. I think we're always talking about how do we elevate the film, how do we think outside the box, what does this film need, and always starting from a place of authenticity. And we started talking about the use of the Nyabingi drum and the use of chords within Bob's music. How can we make it feel part of the film, but also take it to another level? We're not making a documentary, we're making a film, and it's important to just start those conversations. So with Chris, I work with him like any other crew member. He reads my scripts. He gets the scripts as I'm writing them, as we're writing them. And so it's important, to have that established relationship, because then he can be thinking about this music 3 years before we even start making the movie. And so it's like having same thing with my cinematographer, Robert Elswit. Having that relationship is just so helpful in the filmmaking process, because we feel like we're aligned in making the film in that way.
The patois, it was a process that involved many people, and there were different stages to it. I did my own work at the beginning, which was listening to Bob interviews and trying to transcribe them, and then I had lots of help from Jamaican friends and people that I know who really helped me translate the interviews into text. And then we had Jamaican dialect coaches and specialists, and we worked from Frederick Cassidy's Jamaican dictionary. And the family were involved, and 98% of the cast were Jamaican, so we all worked together to try and make it as authentic as possible. And there was the patois, but then there was also the way Bob spoke specifically. So the work that I did on his interviews at the beginning, played a big part, because Bob said certain things in a very specific way. But yeah, it was a group effort. It was a team effort. I guess, because of the assassination attempt, it always felt to me like the trauma of that event was something that bled into the creation of the album of Exodus. So we spoke about that a lot, and I spoke to lots of Bob's friends and people who were around at the time, and lots of the band members who were there on the night informed me that it was a really difficult time after that, and they went into an intense creative frenzy, really. So emotionally speaking, I had a lot of help from Bob's friends and people who knew him at the time, who really explained to me like what his frame of mind was. And then everything Bob said in the interviews around that time really matched up. So I was just kind of looking for evidence to feel secure in whatever I was going to ground it in. And there were so many people who said the same things over and over again. It was in the lead up to the first few days. Yeah, it was scary because they'd asked me to do it, and then there was the preparation, and then sharing with them how it was going to be. But after that, they became my support system, and they were the best thing about the film in a way, because everything I needed to know they were able to share with me. So yeah, it was there was some nerves at the beginning, but as we got going, they were the people I turned to ask for help and advice, and Neville knew Bob really well. Neville was there at the time. Neville was in London with Bob, and he toured the whole album. So it was really game changing to be able to talk to Neville about Bob's mood. Lashana and Ray and I, we started our conversations really early on. So Lashana and I had 6 months. We had 6 months leading up to filming, and so we spent a lot of time talking about Bob and Rita and reading the scenes, and going back to Ray and Zach and talking about things that we liked and things that we didn't like and things that we wanted to change. And then obviously Ziggy and the family were also involved in that process as well. So the process of developing Bob and Rita's relationship in the movie was something that we put a lot of work into, and we took the time to, I guess, really try and find a way to make it feel, mature, and the idea of I guess a kind of unconditional love, that they'd known each other since they were 17, 18, 19, like what that feels like. And lots of it was in the unspoken, how we could show that love without words. And yeah, Lashana and I we had a good amount of time to really get into it. So by the time we got to set, it felt like we knew each other. Yeah, it was great to try and having the time to understand Bob as a human being was wonderful. And again, that was what having his friends and family there made that possible in a way. filming in Jamaica compared to London. You know, Jamaica's hot and London was cold, and that was the distinct difference. I do feel like something dropped in though when we got to Jamaica. There was something about filming there that was different. The idea of displacement in London was really important in the story, that Bob was in a different place and he's away from home, and so there's a different energy.
I did the usual research like you would for playing any real person, which was the first time for me. Scoured the internet, scoured YouTube, read her book, asked as many internal questions as possible. And then after maybe a week of doing that, I was just like, I need to meet her. I need to sit down with her and get her energy, get her take on things, get her personal approach to life at that time. So I met with her. I went to her house and we sat down and just talked about love and memories, and just me tapping into her energy and feeling her presence and really understanding what her presence at that time in different spaces around Bob, on stage, what those different types of presence would be and how I would take that on. So in a way, once I had met her a couple of times, I had to throw away the research. I had to just sit with her energy, and just any time on set when someone would come up in a scene or I'd question what I'm doing, I would, of course, luckily speak to her children, Ziggy and Sadella, who were on set with us and were just, invaluable to us on this production. But I would tap into her energy and literally just ask myself, what would she do? How would she have felt right now? What did I feel that day when I met her? What did I feel the second time that I met her? And eventually it all just made sense. It just flowed, and I realized very early on that I can't be an actor in this process. I have to be a vessel for a real person. And that became the most important thing for me. It was wonderful working with Kingsley. I've been a fan of Kingsley's for years. I've watched just about everything he's been in. When I knew that the role was floating around and I knew that he was playing Bob, I got someone to contact him and met him for lunch, and we just discussed everything. We discussed what we would want this to look like, even though I didn't have the part at the time. I just wanted to pick his brains as to what he saw Bob as and what he saw this story being and becoming, and really to flesh out what could potentially be a beautiful connection and love story between these two human beings who we're telling a story about, but who are very, very real in the world. Though Bob is, transitioned 40 years ago, he is very much so real in everyone's hearts globally. So it was just wonderful to connect with him at the beginning and then see how that threaded through the shoot. It was easy. It was easy because he flows and I'm a person who flows, and it felt very right a lot of the time. It felt like we were standing by their relationship. It was really nice to do both, actually. I think if we shot it all in Jamaica, it would be incredible. But me being a British-born Jamaican woman, to start it in London was really cool because I got to tap into my personal experience growing up here, but also having a Jamaican household that I could thread within the story. London was cold. It was definitely cold. A studio that, tried its best and always does. We have such incredible set builds that really disguise the cold and disguise the fact that we're in another country and really help us as actors immerse into the world. And that was beautiful. But when we got to Jamaica, man, it was just undeniable that we were, again, tapping into an energy that this film deserves, and also gifting something to Bob. We're returning to his land where he became a musician, where he started out, where he fine-tuned his craft. And now we're returning there to tell some of the beautiful parts of his story, of his life. So it was wonderful. And just to work with Jamaican crew again, some of which I'd worked, with on No Time to Die when we shot there. It was lovely. And just the food, the atmosphere, the vibration in general was imperative for this film. So I'm really glad that we were able to. It was really nice to speak in my parents' tongue again. I feel really grateful that I was able to do that once before for a slither of a moment, but this to have a whole film playing one of the queens of Jamaica was priceless. And I asked my mum a lot of questions because there is a real difference I discovered in, of course, generationally and era-wise. An accent like Mrs. Marley's in the 70s is very, very different to what I know, to how my family speak. It would be like, she's basically, we would say RP Jamaican, where she speaks really clipped, and she doesn't always speak in patois. Sometimes it's English that is very, very clear, and that's different for me. I'm used to patois, so I had to actually pull back a lot of the time, which was like learning something new. So that was cool. And just being able to celebrate the accent was amazing. Then the music, I mean, we just got to listen to all of these classics on set, just on repeat. It was wonderful. But I come from a musical background, so it felt natural to do that. I think the biggest thing was just celebrating the accent for me. There's so much wisdom in that man and his music. The vibration in which he speaks from, in which he sits in, is undeniable. And I think that anyone who hasn't focused on his music or listened to it in a while, it's a really easy resurgence listening to his music and watching this film. I think this message, which was his and Mrs. Marley's message the entire time, peace, love, unity. It's as clear as that. I think it's really hard in the world that we live in to be able to sit in that, unfortunately. But if we're able to just give it the light of day sometimes, we'll be able to change parts of ourselves, which has a ripple effect. So it's not called One Love for no reason, you know?
Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? 'Cause all I ever have, redemption songs.
When you write that?
All my life.
Are you ready for Bob Marley and the Wailers? Don't let them fool you.
It's a hit.
Oh no.
Reggae is the people music.
You know you're a superstar.
I am a superstar. You can't separate the music and the message. You see, reggae music come to unify the people.
Not everyone likes what you're saying. For your own safety, you need to stop.
On December 3rd, 1976, would-be assassins invaded Bob Marley's home and attempted to take the life of the singer, his wife, and...
Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that thing. Cause every little thing gonna be alright. You like that one?
Yeah.
There's a war going on. Oh, I can't bring peace. I can't even get peace for myself.
Rise up this morning, smile with the rising sun. Three little birds, it's by my doorstep.
Sometimes
Singing,
the messenger has to become the message.
don't worry about a thing.
Bob, I know it's dangerous,
Every little thing gonna be alright.
but you're the only one who can unite the people.
You ready, Bob?
No guns can stop this message. I want the world to change. And that time is now.